for the Nevermore narrative with your host, Count David von Ravenstein.
Hello, welcome everybody to the second episode of the Nevermore narrative. I'm here with Josh, the nerd tech guy. I was like, I can't hear you, bitches. And then Nate, you guys remember Nate from a couple episodes of Speakeasy Gentleman. He's a big help to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited for the show.
Of course, man. Why do I hear an echo? I was like, what the fuck, dude? You guys like my ventriloquism? I did it without moving my mouth. Yeah. Get it right. Get your shit together. So tonight's episode, Nate actually, I had planned something else for episode 2. I was kind of doing, gathering up stories, doing a bit of research. But, Nate's like, I want to do aliens. I'm like, fuck it. Aliens it is. I'll put the other thing on the back burner, so it gives me more than enough time to really gather up a bit more urban legends. And
I'm excited to learn more about that other thing, too, because I don't know that much about it, and I'm really, really intrigued by it. But tonight, I'm excited to get into this alien discussion.
Yeah, man. So, I don't know, what, Nate, so, like, you believe in aliens, right?
I believe that aliens exist 100%. 100%.
Have you always believed in it, or was it something that you, like, were you denied as a kid, or,
I think I've always believed that aliens exist, and I've kind of gone back and forth on whether they've made contact and whether they're here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 100% that they exist, and I'm about 50-50 on whether they're actually here. But that 50% is pretty...
It's a high 50.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mid 50. But these are Russian. Well, actually, it's maybe one of the things that we could probably touch back on, but a couple years ago, the Russian government declassified a lot of documents they had. One of them in particular was just called, like at the end of World War II, it was called Operation High Jump, or Operation High Jump. They had Russian spies on board American ships. And I don't know if you guys want me to touch back on this story later or save it, or...
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Hey, man. So apparently what happens near... there was word going around that the Nazis had a base in the Antarctic. So, they sent a U.S. fleet, and on board was these Russian spies. So, according to, like, the Russian documents and what the story says, like, how it goes, is that as they got close, flying saucers came out from under the water, like, under the ocean, and started attacking the U.S. ships, literally, like, cutting them in half.
Wow.
And, yeah, the fleet that we sent came back, like, limping home. And the story that they kind of just played it off as like, yeah, I went to the Antarctic, yeah, it was cold, we came back, kind of shit. And they're just, nothing big. But according to the Russian documents of these fucking spies that were on board our ships, that's what happened. I was like, what the fuck, dude? But yeah, I'm well aware that the Russian government has been telling their citizens, like, everything kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no more lying here. That's Soviet, USSR, whatever. I don't think they'll ever declassify Roswell. JFK died.
Yeah.
JFK died. You never know. Yeah, you never know. I mean, JFK was obviously, like one of an American president, like a true, like someone to look up to. But the way he died, dude, and all like the conspiracy theories that were surrounding it all, and like it's interesting, but it also pisses me off. Like I think that the CIA kind of did it. That's like my kind of conclusion, because when you look at the footage again, it's the driver that shoots him. He turns around mid like driving, pulls out his .45, pops him, and like he just goes back. If he's being shot from behind, wouldn't he fly forward?
Yeah.
It never made any sense. Even the doctors that initially looked at his body, they're like, they saw the trajectories, the way the bullet entered, like, yeah, he was shot from the front. So I don't think Leo Harvey Oswald, I think he was just a scapegoat, that poor guy. And then, yeah, and his head goes back. If he's being shot from behind, how does his head go back? I don't necessarily think from the driver, but the killing blow was from the driver.
I think it was obviously Ted Cruz's dad. Trump said it, so it must be true.
I thought Ted Cruz was the Zodiac killer.
He is, but his dad is the JFK assassinator.
I did not know that.
Must run in the family. But I wanted to back up just a little bit and talk about if aliens did exist, what would they look like? What would their civilization be like? And I was doing some research on this. Actually, astrophysicist that I really like listening to. His name's Michio Kaku.
Never heard of him.
And he's great. You should definitely look him up.
I will. But
he always talks about the levels of civilizations. And what he's talking about is called the Kardashev scale. And so Kardashev was a Russian astrophysicist, and in 1964, he came up with this categorization tool for categorizing different societies and civilizations. And he just had it as like a 1, 2, and 3, like type 1, type 2, type 3. Throughout the years, actually, on this scale, we're not even a type 1. We're a type 0. But so basically, type 1 is a civilization that's capable of harnessing the total energy of its home planet. So that means like the total energy of the Earth, we would have to be capable of harnessing. And at that point, we'd be able to manipulate the weather, control volcanic activity, which we're not there yet. We're getting there, and people predict that 1 to 200 years we'll be there. But right now, we're type 0.
You don't think that the government's already kind of controlling the weather a bit?
I think they definitely could be. Like, a lot of people say that on this scale, we're a 0.77. So we're about 0.33 away from being a type 1.
Damn.
So a type 2 is basically an interstellar civilization that's capable of harnessing the total energy output of a star. So this is when you get into like Dyson structures and stuff like that, where they literally build structures around their star to harness all of the energy of the star and redirect that towards their civilization, which at this point is spread throughout their entire solar system. It's not just localized to one planet. So that's a type 2. And when you get into type 3, that's when you get onto the galactic scale. So type 3 civilizations have the ability to harness the energy of an entire galaxy.
Damn. It's like Death Star.
Yeah, I think Star Wars is definitely a type 3.
Oh, for sure. So this guy came up with this scale of civilizations, and then...
Yeah, so he came up with the 3 basic types. People have added on to it since then.
Mm-hmm.
So a type 4 is a universal civilization capable of harnessing the energy of the whole universe. So at this point, you kind of get into kind of like the metaphysical, I guess you could say, like the quantum theory and stuff like that.
You think we might have fucked up at CERN with the Hadron Collider?
I hear a lot of people saying that they did something and like fuck
that
space.
Something, yeah, our timelines. Like there's a theory that happened with like when they rediscovered rather. I guess the God particle is what they called it. Right. When they like rediscovered it, there's a theory that went around that their discovery was so powerful that it knocked our universe into the closest parallel universe. That's why some things are kind of like fucking up. That's where we kind of get the idea of the Mandela effect, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just interesting.
Yeah. So actually a type 5 civilization, I think I lost the page for it, but basically it's a multiverse civilization. So they have the power to basically control reality in like space and time. Like they exist outside of space and time, which is where you really start getting into like the metaphysical quantum theory type shit. But
damn, it's like Thanos shit. Almost
So-
got them all.
I was going to talk about this on the Speakeasy Gentleman, but there was there's a MIT paper. Sorry, my screen's going to get really bright for a second.
It's cool.
Look it up. So there's an MIT paper, and they're planning on using infrared lights and telescopes to signal extraterrestrial life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like for hundreds of years we've been, you know, sending out radio frequencies and stuff like that out into space to see if it
I don't
reaches
think
anybody.
hundreds of years, but quite some time. Yeah.
It's been over 100 at least, I should
SETI
say,
and stuff.
for 100 years. Then, for dozens and dozens of years.
For quite a few decades.
So the goal is to create an energy beam meant to withstand the excess noise of space. So all the extra, you know, radiation and everything else that's out there in space, that's going to be last throughout it. It says, yeah, for over a century we've been sending out radio waves.
Damn.
Yeah, so our target would be Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth.
Yeah.
Hold on, the closest star to Earth. Yeah, I guess. And TRAPPIST-1, a star around 40 light years away, with 7 exoplanets in orbit. Scientists say 3 of those exoplanets are potentially habitable. So, shooting it out to them and seeing what that
Hey,
looks
we
like.
need help. Fucked up our planet. Can we
Yeah.
move in with you?
Right?
And I think it's gonna go-
The projected size is 39 meters. I'm not, you know, I don't know too much about the metric system, but
39
that's how big it will be in diameter. And the project
meter,
has a budget
about 40 inches.
40 inches.
40 inches is 1 meter, so 39 meters.
Oh,
Like what?
okay. I
Yeah.
thought you said 39 meters is 40 inches. Well, a meter is 3 feet.
3 feet. It's like a yard, like about 3
Yeah,
point.
it's just a little over.
3 meters is it?
30 something.
Shit. Anyway,
Look,
it's gonna
Luke made
take
the shot.
It's gonna
Fine.
take approximately $1.3 billion to complete. By the way, when they shoot the beam up, if they do ever do this, when they shoot the beam up into space, it could potentially blind you by staring directly at it. So if that
They
ever
should build it
happens,
and let Trump look at it like he did the fucking solar eclipse. He's like, don't stare directly at it. You got it.
because of that fact, though, because of the fact that it could potentially blind you, they've been talking about building it on the far side of the moon.
Don't you think we're already there?
Already where?
See, already on the moon.
Where?
Nate, do you know anything about this?
I'm saying
Us being on the far side of the moon. I've heard conspiracy theories about that we have bases and stuff on the dark side of the moon.
I'm saying that they're
yeah.
talking about building that telescope, though, so it won't be shot from Earth; it'll be shot from the moon.
Yeah, I'm saying you're saying once we get to the moon. I'm like, don't you think we're already there on the moon?
I didn't say once we get to the moon. The fuck are you talking about?
Listen to what I have to say, dude. So, you know, obviously there's all this weird conspiracy theories of people not believing that we actually landed on the moon in 1969. I think we did. And NASA was pretty good at trying to edit it out as far as what they wanted the home viewers of the world to see. But what they kind of forgot was that people still had those old ham radios, those CB radios, and some people were listening in onto the actual approach when they landed and walked on the moon. So I'm not sure if you can find the audio of it, but there were reports of people saying that the communication between the astronauts and NASA as they landed on the moon was like, oh, we're here, yeah, they're looking at us. They're right over a crater about a few yards away, they're looking right at us. And they're like, oh, well, just keep going, just keep doing the thing. If they try not to bother them or anything like that, they shouldn't do anything. Who the fuck is they? If we were the first one on the moon, like, it doesn't make any, like, it's just weird, you know?
Right.
I don't know.
Maybe Russians, maybe Russians beat us to the space race.
But even Buzz Aldrin, the second guy to walk on the moon, said that, yes, there was somebody else there on the moon when they were there.
Weren't there like things like flying that they saw too when they were going up there?
As they made their
Couple
approach,
ships.
they had the atmosphere of the moon, like almost touching the surface. There was like orbs of light, sort of almost like Foo Fighters, I guess you would say. You know, orbs of light just kind of coming around, circling around, and then just kind of like darting off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know. See, like the whole Roswell thing always made me wonder.
Well, you don't believe that?
That's something that I've thought about for a long time. No, it's not that I don't believe it. It's just when the crash happened, they send all these fucking people, you know, and didn't they take it away in 2 pieces? And Hoover, who was president at the time?
Truman.
Was it Truman? I know that, you know, they went and personally went to wherever they flew it. And they flew it somewhere like in the middle of like Ohio or Iowa or some shit, like far as fuck away.
What do you mean?
They flew the wreckage somewhere far away.
It was from New Mexico. They flew it to Nevada.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, Area
I don't
51.
believe you. I know where Area 51 is, but they flew the wreckage somewhere else.
No. Oh, Patterson Air Force Base.
Where's
at first. Patterson Air Force Base. I think it's in Ohio. I don't know. Look it up, dude. Patterson Air Force Base. It should be there. The hangar, I think 14 is where they stored it too. To this day, like, you know, people are not allowed to go like to that fucking hangar in particular or whatever. It's like, you know, top clearance shit.
Yeah, see, like, why be shrouded in... And then didn't they say, like, oh, it was just a fucking weather balloon?
They said it was a weather balloon. It was weird, yeah. It never made any sense. Even, damn, there was a book. I forgot the guy's name, but that famous photo of that Air Force commander holding the wreckage, and he's, like, looking up at him, you know, at the guys. Like, they were explaining them to, like, when the time of that photo was taken, they're like, yeah, hold it up, and we're just going to report it as a weather balloon thing. And he looked up at him like, what the fuck? Like, and they just snapped that famous photo. I swear to God, if you look up that photo, his face is like, you really want me to fucking, like, go on with this shit? Like, you really a fucking weather balloon accident? It's the funniest. It's the guy, his son, ended up writing a story because I think he ended up working for the government as well. And he wrote a book about the, you know, again, aliens already being among us. Nate, you're still on the fence about this, right?
I think by the end of this show, I might have swayed a little more towards believing. But yeah, so part of the reason I'm still on the fence about this is because, I mean, when people talk about aliens, like, for example, some people think there's these aliens called the Greys, which is apparently like what the Roswell aliens were.
One of the races that we know of, yeah.
One of the, right. There's like the Arcturians and everything like that.
The Anunnaki.
But what I see is, like, you look at all these different races of aliens, and I feel like people tend to kind of like anthropomorphize nearly everything, like, and especially when you look at like alien races, they tend to try and make them human or fit like a human mold because that's what we know and that's like what we believe. But personally, I think if aliens did exist, then the type of environment that they evolved in would create a completely different product that looks nothing like us, that can barely, like, I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but I just don't think that if there were aliens, they wouldn't be as human as we make them out to be.
You don't think even like humanoid-like, you know, like stand up on 2 feet, you know, have arms and legs and fingers and stuff?
I mean, I think they could exist, but I think it's more likely that it would be something completely unrecognizable. Like, you hear that story about when the Spanish conquistadors first came to South America and Central America, and at first the natives there, they couldn't even see the ships. Like, they had to sit there and stare out into the sea for like 3 days, and they were staring right at these ships, these huge ships, but they couldn't see them because their brains couldn't process what they were seeing. I think it would be kind of the same way for us. If we were to see alien life, we wouldn't be able to even process it enough to be able to recognize it as alien life. I don't think it would be as human as we make it out to be.
I wonder how that story went over, like when the first person who actually was able to see him, like, holy shit, they're here. Who's here?
Well, they could see them like when they came on to shore or whatever, but
like, how did you get it?
They couldn't see their ships, like, because just the whole idea of like a giant ass ship that can sail in the ocean like was so foreign to them that their brains didn't even have like the capacity to process it visually.
That's a crazy. I've never heard of that, dude. It's like, I don't know. But you think, like, I understand, like, how the human mind sometimes in, like, traumatic events or something like that, or, you know, how people tend to shut off things that they don't want to see. Like, their mind just clicks, you know. Right. So I guess I could see. I never had heard of that.
You know, it really makes sense to me, though, for them to not tell us that kind of shit. And the reason why is because people freak the fuck out. Like, during Orson Welles', you know, fucking War of the Worlds, like, people were killing themselves.
1938.
Yeah.
They were fucking literally killing themselves because they thought, like, we were being invaded. So, for them to find out, I mean, honestly, the introduction is going to be something like this. We found alien life on fucking Mars, and that alien life's going to turn out to be some bacteria or something really fucking small, but it's going to be something that's living. And that's going to be really our introduction, no matter what, to alien life is going to be an actual living thing, but it's going to be something small like that first.
I think our introduction has already begun. I mean, you have all these people that have worked for these government entities and for like years, and they become whistleblowers. You have senators, you know, saying that, yeah, the Greys, the aliens are real. Like, you know, I think Senator Brown or something like that. I forget from where. He's from on the U.S., obviously, but what state, I don't know. But he's he made mention like how there are several different races of aliens that we know of that are in existence.
Yeah. Well, actually, the Canadian Paul Hellyer, he's the former well-regarded Canadian defense minister, and he's claimed that aliens are in fact real and walking among us. See? And he's accused world leaders of concealing vital information about the existence of aliens.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's definitely those high-profile figures out there that definitely know something that we don't know. You know
I think that they really do drive the conspiracy theorist aspect of it, though. They drive that intentionally. So if somebody talks about aliens, you automatically see that dude with the hair out in your mind, or a tinfoil hat. You know what I mean? So like it's not even a topic of discussion without you being considered a fucking psychopath. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they've been driving it really well. You're right, and it's just it's bothersome. It's kind of bothersome, but at the same time, it's interesting to see other people's like point of views, why they don't believe them, or how
I
they don't.
do think that's a great approach, though. If it's something you want to keep secret, you stop people from talking about it because they're going to be ridiculed. They'll be ridiculed for talking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You make a stigma about having the conversation. That way, nobody will risk having the conversation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And back to what you were talking about, Mars, how like first we're going to find single-celled organisms. I feel like you're right. Like they might try and like wean us into it instead of just dropping like, oh shit, aliens are here. Like you walk next to them every single day, you know, everybody's going to freak out. Right. You want to like slowly wean people onto the idea that A, we're not alone, and B, they're already here. You know what I mean?
Did you see that? Did you see the April Fool's prank where they had like a base on Mars? I think Google did it. So Google's like for Google, you know, their satellite images and shit had they showed a base on Mars. I'll show you guys, but go ahead, David.
It's worth Google. No, I kind of actually think we were already on Mars as well. At the end of World War II, one of the top Nazi scientists, Dr. Werner von Braun, he was the guy who created the V1 and V2 rockets, which were infamous for, you know, Hitler's V1s and V2 launching the bombs into starting the Battle of Britain. After the war, he came and started working with us in our space program, and he was the one who built our rockets that got us to the moon. Back in 1955, he had written a pamphlet. Sometime after, like before we landed on the moon, I think it might have been like late 50s, early 60s. He wrote a 94-page pamphlet how plausible it was for us to get to the Mars, and he turned it into the government. But, you know, according to the story, like, they're just kind of like, whatever. It's just kind of tossed over the shoulder. You think they're going to do that to a top scientist? It's like, here, we can actually get to fucking Mars now. In 1955, he made a video with through Walt Disney of all the creations that he was fiddling around with and talking about one day we're going to be on the moon, and it's going to be soon. And sure enough, like, what, fucking 15 years after that? Less than that? Yeah. So,
10 years.
Also, the thing that came out a couple years ago is that the rover Curiosity on Mars, it was the first rover to do a 360-degree spin, and it can self-diagnose. The camera can point down and look at its body and see what's wrong, and they can diagnose it from here on Earth. Mm-hmm. One of the photos that it snapped while I was in self-diagnosis mode caught a shadow, and behind it looked like a person without a helmet, but like it had a suit on, like a astronaut suit, and they were fixing the rover.
What?
Wow.
And it was supposedly by itself?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Is there life on Mars, Josh? I kind of
No, I meant like there's no humans never been there, right?
According to what they want us to know, no. I think we kind of already there.
Well, I mean, wasn't there a plan for people to go start colonizing?
Yeah, but didn't they push it back? So now those people are like fucked. Like you're gonna
all these people like signed up and shit. Here, this is the photo I was talking about. It's kind of grainy, but it was an image that you could see out from like Google Earth or Google Maps or some shit like that.
Legos.
If you use the Google satellite to take a look at Mars, it had buildings like this, like a base. And if you zoomed in, you could see like a truck somewhere on there, like parked at the base. Yeah, so they were like, "Oh, just kidding. That wasn't real. We were just messing with you. Happy April Fool's Day or whatever."
Hey, before we're on the photos, I'm going to show those pictures of the Greys if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
So this is one of the alien races that obviously exist. The most infamous one, everyone's like, oh, the Greys, the typical.
I mean, this is what you see all the time, right?
Right. These are the ones that communicate telepathically, if I'm not mistaken. People who have, like top government officials who've worked, secret, top secret shit. Some of them, like, they've came out and become whistleblowers, and they said, oh yeah, the Greys are here, they're helping us out, and they communicate telepathically. The reason why, I think back in 1952, I think when Eisenhower was president, this is a real story. Eisenhower disappeared from the White House for 3 days. 3 days later, he turns up, he's out here in Palm Springs playing golf. Nobody knows where the fuck the president went for 3 fucking days. That was the cover story. Like, oh, he just, went for a fucking golf trip. The real story, like the conspiracy theorist, sort of spin, and it makes sense to me, he came out here, or to Area 51, to talk with the Greys. They kind of made a pact. They're like, hey, we're already here living amongst you guys. In exchange for our protection, we will give you guys some of our technology that we have. Like, all right, cool deal. So then, our jet propulsion systems and everything started, to come together, our new fighter jets and all this shit. So our stealth bomber, for things to fly just under the radar, it started all coming together. And there was supposedly a guy named Valiant Thor who is in the cabinet, close advisor to Eisenhower during his presidency, and he was supposedly an alien that was living amongst us. You could find pictures of him too. The guy looks kind of weird, but like he's supposedly an alien. Him and his partner that he had.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah, Valiant Thor.
Valiant Thor?
Valiant Thor.
So, do you think the Greys, they have some sort
That's
of...
a band, David?
So, I mean, if they're living among us, do you think they have some sort of, like, camouflage or some way to blend in? Like,
Valiant
obviously
Thor.
they have to.
Josh, Jesus, you're fucking dumb.
What?
Because you typed in, I said Valiant Thor, and you just, like, clicked on alien. Like, you didn't see that one before when you were typing it in?
I just typed Valiant Thor, not Valiant Thor Alien. You dumb fuck.
Oh. You dumb fuck. I think if they're living here amongst us, they might have some sort of... are you aware of... I think they have a suit or some sort of thing that allows them to be out in the open for a certain amount of time. You heard of the stories of the Men in Black?
I have heard those, man.
There's people...
No, I've actually... There was a time where I was just watching like a fuck ton of first-hand accounts about those guys.
Yeah, and most of them you know, it's when something rather extraterrestrial happens here on Earth, whatever, and it's a massive group of people, or like if say you're out in the middle of fucking nowhere, a spacecraft comes and lands on your farm, you're like, yo, what the fuck, and then it leaves. A couple days later, one of the guys comes knocking at your door. It's the men in black suit, black tie, black hat, sunglasses, everything. They come in and they explain to you that you need to keep your mouth shut, like what you saw wasn't what you think it is, and you're not allowed to speak to anybody. And so, people, obviously, it's a threat. And so they kind of, take it, they're like, all right, whatever. But most of the time, they'll ask for a glass of sugar water. And they're like, okay, whatever. But sometimes they kind of act, and there's some reports that said they kind of act robotic. And they're like, feeling very tired, I must refuel. And they, like, wipe their hand across their forehead, exposing gray skin.
Yeah, like they smudge the makeup off or some shit.
Yeah. And then they leave.
There were a bunch of accounts that said that. A lot of them.
Because they're around. It's a real thing, dude.
Right.
I don't know, man. I think for sure they're here. They've been helping us with our technology. I mean, think about it. I think about it this way.
We're not really that fucking advanced, though.
We're not, because at the start of 100 years ago, we were still relying on horse and buggy. So let's say from 1947 really is when Roswell happened. So from 1947 to 1980, look how much technology boosted. Could you stop?
Oh yeah, I should just mute when I cough. I heard you.
But look how much our technology had boosted from the late 40s to the 80s, and look at where we're at now. Mm-hmm. To think that from the time we were a nation to just 100 years ago, we were relying on horse and buggy still. There's no way we haven't had any help. We've had help.
But see, they have to have the technology to not only. I mean, they got here in 1947, supposedly, right? We fucking went to the moon in '69, and the technology that we had to get to the moon was nowhere near the technology it would take to travel through, to multiple fucking other galaxies and shit.
Stellar, you mean?
Yeah, or even within our own galaxy, but. We still don't even have that technology. We don't have sustainable fuel that would last that long. And maybe they had. So we're using fucking what's it called? We're using fucking fossil fuels and stuff right now. Maybe they had something on their planet that could
harvest the energy from the moon and use smart people would. But you are using fucking cavemen.
Harvesting energy from the moon?
No, harvesting energy from the sun.
Oh, okay. I thought you said moon. I was like, what the fuck? The moon is a reflection of the sun. Why would we harvest from that?
See, my theory, though, is if there are aliens out there that are so advanced, how would we even be a blip on their radar? We would just be like a blade of grass to them. If they're so far advanced, so far ahead of us, are you going to stop and look at a blade of grass and try and communicate with it?
I wouldn't. You think aliens would try and stop and communicate with us? We're just insignificant to them.
We are curious. So if they're curious like we are, then yeah, I would. That's why we know everything about every insect that we come across. That's why we know everything is about the fucking the as much as we can anyway about the stars. That's why we're learning so much about the sea, and even though we know fucking basically nothing about it, is because we're curious. So if they are exploring out into space, they have to have curiosity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the reason. That has to be the reason why they're doing it. Why would they do it if they weren't curious? So I think of course, I think they would come to look at us. The problem is, go ahead, David. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to go on with two theories I have, but go ahead.
I was just saying, if they weren't here already, and the problem that I see with things like, back to what I was saying before, like sending communication out, right? Mm-hmm. Things are, millions of light years away. So traveling at the fucking speed of light, it will take 1,000,000 years to get there.
I think the closest one is 43, but still even 43 light years. That's 43 years to get there.
At the speed of light, not 43 years.
Which we
don't travel the speed of light or anywhere fucking close to it.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the speed that our fucking message gets to them. It'll take, not only will they have to be waiting for it, but they'll have to get it, and then they'll have to send a message back, And by that time, especially something that's a fucking million light years away, we will never, ever even close to know what the fuck they're saying.
Did you ever hear about the, I think it was like in 1970, we actually received a radio transmission from space? Like, we don't know where it came from. We received something.
What did it say?
Could you look that up, Josh?
Yeah, of course.
I want to say it was like some sort of like mathematical problem, but when they put it, like, they wrote it all out, and they do it like through binary and all that shit, whatever, the image came up of an alien, like how the gray kind of looks.
Okay. 1977.
Yeah, mysterious signal.
Another theory that I have that kind of ties back into your theory that they've been here and they've been helping us along, nudging us in the right direction as a species, is what if the whole reason we're here is because they put us here?
That's where.
What if they planted the seeds of life on Earth and they're just checking up on it, trying to help it along,
And we're their offspring. We're the aliens.
Right.
I always thought about it too, as like, because how humans are such shitty, like, we're a terrible species, man. I don't think we deserve life, man. We should never I don't think we should have ever existed, man. We're fucking up this planet and each other while we're at it, I have that, theory of, like, what if Earth was, like, hell for, other alien species, races, whatever, that live out on different planets, and they're like, Earth, you're sentenced to Earth, you're going to exile, you're like, fuck, and you get sent here, and, like, look what happened. We're the worst of the worst, dude. Like,
if we're the worst of the worst, I don't think we would have survived as long as we have. I think humanity as a whole has goodness to it, but I think if you look in deeper at individuals, there's definitely the worst of the worst among us.
For sure.
So it was a signal that was caught by a radio telescope. And it appeared to come from the constellation Sagittarius and had the expected hallmarks of extraterrestrial origin. It says that it was 72 seconds, and it is known to be the strongest candidate for alien radio transmission ever detected. It says that it included natural and man-made sources, but none of them adequately explains the results. So we don't know where it came from or how it came from.
We just know we got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, what about, didn't we send out in, like, Voyager 1 or Voyager 2, we have, like, a disc with, like, everything about humanity, and it's just going out into space?
Chuck Berry, one of Chuck Berry's hits?
Yeah.
I swear to God, that's the thing, dude.
Didn't Chuck Berry like to pee on people or some shit like that?
He liked to watch pee. That's a different thing, dude.
Okay. I just wondering.
Would you try to badmouth him?
So you know how they developed Vanta Black, the color Vanta Black.
What is that?
It's the blackest black. It has virtually no.
It absorbs all light.
Yes, no reflection whatsoever. So.
Can I see it?
Yeah. I'll pull something up. So somebody will have like a Vanta Black glove on, and they'll put it over like a background of Vanta Black, and you can't see even a fucking like remote reflection of light or shadow or anything from their hand. Completely disappears. So
it's like my soul.
The reason why I'm bringing it up is because they're starting to put Vanta Black in telescopes because it is the least reflecting, right? So the fact that it's not reflecting is what lets you see the most, because you get the reflection from the sky, and that kind of hinders your sight. So by putting Vanta Black around it, you see so much clearer because you don't get the reflection, you get a clear picture. So having said that, and this is going back to my original concept, because that's something that fucking bugs the shit out of me. So if we have a telescope capable of seeing that fucking far, right, we would be seeing them so far in the past, we would not even know that there's civilization there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the amount of
time they're looking at us, we'd still be in the prehistoric age.
Oh,
they'd be looking at
exactly.
Right.
So we'd be looking at no structures or anything, unless we could zoom in close enough to see that there's fucking
they're like, hey,
people walking
that planet
around.
looks very habitable. Let's go up. Everything's on fire. Like, oh fuck.
But we'd be seeing them in their past.
Yeah.
That's it. All the people that we'd be looking at currently are fucking dead. And they could, at the same time as us, they could have better technology than us. But by the time we see them now, we're seeing them in the past.
So have you read the book Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut?
Yeah.
Read it.
Yeah.
I own it. But no, I've never read
So,
it.
Josh,
Take a look at this.
so,
Go ahead, Nate.
so, in that book, like the alien life form in that book, they kind of exist outside of time and space. So when they look at time, they see it as something fluid that they can kind of pop in and out of.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Mhm.
to
Like
be
a
in this moment, right? So I think if civilization is advanced enough, they could travel across the universe, both spatially and through time, to get to where we are at now, or in the past, or in the future.
So
But-
you don't really believe in aliens, but you believe in time travel?
Anything's possible. I mean, I don't think we've been able to travel time, but I think somebody out there somewhere lives outside of the space-time continuum.
David, you see this right here?
Yeah.
This is a Vanta black ball and a Vanta black background. Look at this. 100%. 100% gone. Nothing at all.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. Sorry guys, I'm not as cool as Pierce. I can't show it on stream, but
Yeah.
I'll attach
Look it up.
I'll attach a link on our Facebook.
So I actually have had like a UFO experience.
Yeah. Good. What happened?
Sorry, my phone dropped.
UFO?
Were you probed? David, is that what you asked?
Were you probed?
I just want to know what their obsession is with people's buttholes, because that's always what happens. They're always getting probed all the
I don't
time.
think it's necessarily buttholes. I think it's just like the anatomy. They're always getting creatures and just learning their structure and how
It's the very first way I learned something new.
poke it, itch to the butt.
All right, go ahead, Nathan.
Okay. So, anyways, this was probably, I think it was summer of 2010, the summer after I graduated high school, and right after 4th of July, maybe a couple of days after, I was hanging out with my buddy Jacob, and we decided that we were going to go light off some extra fireworks that we had. And so this was probably 10, 11 at night. So we get in the car and we drive to this little lake. It's called Man Lake. It's like 2 miles outside of town. And so we get out there and we're parked in the parking lot and we're just like lighting off firecrackers, bottle rockets, shit like that. And we're just messing around. And all of a sudden we're like, dude, does that star look like extra bright to you or something? And so we start looking at this star. And as we're looking at it, it's kind of like flickering in brightness. And then we see it kind of start to like dip, like kind of dips around and moves a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, what the fuck is that? So we're staring at this. And so we're still like lighting off fireworks. We're not like too concerned. We think it's like an airplane or a satellite or whatever. But we keep looking up at it and it's just getting brighter and brighter and it's starting to move around more and more and more. And at this point we look at each other, we just get completely freaked out. Like I don't even know if I've ever been that scared in my life. Like we had no idea what was going on because there was no noise. Like it wasn't like an airplane or anything like that. And so we get inside the car and we roll up the windows and we have our phones and we're trying to record it, but camera phones were really shitty back then. So we're in the car and we're trying to record it with our phones. We're just staring at it, watching it. And as we watch, it comes, and this is maybe like 200 feet up above the ground. And as it gets closer, you can see that it's not just one light, it's like 3 lights in a triangle.
Uh-huh.
And it's just hovering like silently. And it goes right above the lake. And it's just like this triangle of lights.
You know, the
Right above.
the three lights is also a typical thing.
Yeah,
That's
it's
something
usually
that
not.
comes up a lot. Three white lights and 1 red one, right? Like
Other-
right in the middle or something.
I
Sometimes.
don't remember, but all I remember was the 3 in the triangle. And you can tell that it's some sort of object. And like I said, it's just hovering silently and pretty slowly, like surprisingly slowly. Like you wouldn't think it would have any lift at that speed. And then it gets like kind of right above us, and then it turns on its side like this, and then it just goes and like shoots off at like 100 miles an hour, like up over the mountain. and we were just like freaking out. I wish I had that video. I don't think I have that phone anymore, but
Damn, that's scary, man.
Yeah, there's a lot that are described similar to that. So 3 lights. Typically, they say there's like a red one, like right at the belly
yeah,
of
that's
the
when
ship.
do
Yeah,
you have your mouse on? Yeah, that was
three lights. Yeah, that's what they say they see a lot.
Josh, you remember that blue light that was hovering over like Anaheim Garden Grove area a few years back, like maybe 2010, I think, 2011.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up, because you were supposed to talk about haunted fucking Disneyland, and I was gonna bring this up because of Disneyland, because I remember it being like right over
like,
Disneyland, yeah, like
I don't
right
think it
over
was
that area.
Yeah, it was like over Anaheim and Garden Grove. I remember I was with Cynthia and we were like driving around and she's like, she keeps looking out the window. I'm like, bitch, what the fuck you looking at? She's like, that blue light out there. I was like, what the fuck? And like, we kind of pull over and we check it out and like, we stopped like at a park somewhere like kind of close and we just like looking at this blue fucking light. It didn't move. It was just like hovering. And then eventually like a couple helicopters kind of like started trying to get close. And we're like, what the fuck is going on, dude? And it just eventually just disappeared, like it shot off or whatever.
Yeah.
There's videos of it on YouTube because people were like, yo, blue light, what the hell? Yeah,
That's
blue
crazy.
light or something like that. I don't know. You can probably YouTube that later.
I don't know, dude. It's fucking, yeah, I don't know. That shit weirds me out. It's just,
Well, aliens? You scared?
no, I'm not scared at all. It's just the fact that there's shit that we don't know that somebody knows. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, somebody has information about it. It's just the fact that there's so much secrecy. That's what kind of fucking what gets to me. And even if it's not aliens, you know, even if Roswell's not fucking aliens, if it's like espionage or something, because it used to be big time spy shit back then, right?
Yeah.
If it's somebody fucking captured or whatever the fuck it was, it's shrouded in such secrecy that we fill in the blanks ourselves. So, I mean, I think it's time to just fucking find out what the fuck it is.
I think
Well, last year they the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and it was part of the $600 billion defense budget, and it was $22 million that was directed towards this program that was the sole purpose was to look into UFO sightings and stuff like that. And so they declassified it at the end of 2017, and they released 3 videos of actual like military fighter jet radar UFO encounters.
Dude, they're fucking nuts, man. It's like a
Yeah.
like I don't know, F-18, and you could see like, you know, what they kind of see through their radar, their targeting system,
Right.
and you see this like light, and they're like, yeah, I'm following it. Like, you know, they're talking with the fucking tower or whatever, and they're like, yeah, it's going really fast, and like this guy's just pushing everything he's got, just like
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah.
You want to transition that? That's what they see, and they'll be following that, you know, spacecraft for a while, and then it just darts off, and they cannot catch it because our fucking planes are shit compared to
Because
what
they
they got.
suck.
Yeah, we
that,
suck.
like that right there is an infrared image. So if that was like a jet propulsion system, you would be able to see like a trail of plumes
Yeah.
because like, they let off like a heat signature. But these had like no trails, no like signatures or anything, and they're just moving at like hundreds of miles an hour.
There's another story about Richard Nixon. You guys familiar with the comedian Jackie Gleason?
Yeah.
Remember standing in the moon like pow zoom. There was that-
Old guy.
Yeah, the old guy from the.
Honeymooners.
Yeah, he was a good friend with Richard Nixon, and there's like the story goes like what he said. This is from Jackie Gleason's point of view. He's like he ended up, you know, telling people that Richard Nixon came by himself driving in a car, picked him up, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go see something?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So they drove down to this like local military base. It's just Richard Nixon driving in the car and Jackie Gleason. That's it. No security, no nothing. Just them two. He pulls up unannounced to this military base. The guy's like, "Sorry, sir, you can't have clearance." Nixon just looks at him. He's like, "Oh shit, all right." Fucking lets him go through. So in walk in Nixon and Jackie Gleason. They start walking, and they go into this base, and they go into like the lower levels, all this shit. And he's like, "You really want to see something?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So he like pulls over this platform.
He tells him. He asks him again. He's like, I know
Well,
we
I mean,
traveled all this distance, but are you sure?
Trying to spice up the fucking story, asshole.
Okay.
Dickhead. So then
casserole.
they walk in, and then like there's like extraterrestrials like laying in tables, and like some are being kept in like a like a confinement, like in a room and shit like that.
Yeah.
And they're just Jackie Gleason's just like could not believe what the fuck he's seen. They're like real life aliens there, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what Jackie Gleason said, and that's another one of those stories, like a conspiracy theory sort of thing, kind of that they exist, man. They're already here.
Another one I heard was in 2004, this aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this space satellite or whatever had these weird radar images going on around like off the coast of California in the Pacific. So they told this aircraft carrier to head that way, to see if they could check it out and see what was going on. And so they're going out there, and for like a couple weeks, they're just like following around these weird like radar blips that would just like show up, and then they would just like disappear, and then they would show up like 200 miles away. So one day, like these fighter jets, I think they were 2 F-18s or whatever, were out on like a practice training or whatever, and they're just flying around, and they're like, hey, do you guys have weapons on you? And they're like, no, we're just doing training. So they're like, oh well, go to this location, see what this is, because the radar blips just showed up right there. So they go there, and they have visual like contact, and they look down, and they see like the ocean just bubbling, like just boiling from underneath. And they get closer, and they see rising up out of the ocean like this white kind of like oval. They called it a tic tac. They said it was like a tic tac. It didn't have any markings. It didn't have any vents. It was just completely smooth, and it comes up out of the ocean, and then all of a sudden it just like shoots away, and they're like, "What the did we just see?" So then it like they look on their radar, and it shows up like 200 miles away, like not even like a minute later. Like nothing could travel that fast.
Yeah. Supposedly there's like an underwater like alien base off the coast here of California. Like that's when like no conspiracy. Yeah, but supposedly there's a alien base underwater off the coast of Southern California. So I kind of want to go like near there and just like sit and watch the ocean. Hopefully something just shows up. I'm like, what the fuck? I want to see one.
Yeah. If aliens were here, if they were here, the ocean would be a good place to hide because
we don't know anything. We know more about space than we do about the bottom of the ocean. That's a fact. Like they can hide there all they want, And the Antarctic, like the whole fucking you heard about the hole or whatever in the Antarctic?
Oh yeah.
It's like a 200 meter wide. I don't know how fucking like 200. It's a big ass hole in the middle of the Arctic, and supposedly it's like not a tunnel, but like it's a portal or whatever, or something that leads into the inner Earth. There's like another Earth inside our Earth or whatever. That's a weird conspiracy theory. The one that I'm still kind of like trying to figure out. But there was a pilot. He was a very famous like pilot in World War II. He ended up flying his plane through that hole, and that's what he saw was like this entire inside our Earth was another Earth. There was a sun, there was sky and fucking water and shit like that. And he ended up coming back, and then the president told him like, yeah, don't ever fucking say that again. Like, don't say anything to anyone about that. But it's some weird shit, man. I mean, I think it's so like to be so narrow-minded or like so ignorant to think that we're the only ones here that exist,
Yeah, it's kind of narcissistic, what I mean?
Yeah.
To think that all of this stuff is here because of us.
Yeah. Or we're the only ones here, like it's just dumb. I mean, like now we're getting so many stories and like declassified documents that are coming out like in footage, things are getting a little better. I think it's kind of impossible to not believe now.
Yeah.
I want to believe. Nobody? No. There you go, Nate. I was like, come on, nobody?
So real quick, what is your guys' favorite alien movies?
Predator. Wait, no. Let me think. Alien movies. Damn.
Did Alf make a movie? Hey,
No.
Willie!
Hey, I heard they canceled that one.
E.T.?
E.T. really?
I think my favorite, I'm going to go with Arrival.
Are there a lot of
I-
alien movies?
Well, Alien,
When-
Independence Day,
When Mars
Predator.
attacks?
Yeah, one more. What about The Thing?
The Thing? That's
Kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think maybe.
the
I think probably Independence Day. I'll just because that's really the only one I can really.
the thing I like about Arrival. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but it's basically like all around the Earth. Suddenly, there's like 15 different huge oblong spaceships that show up, and they just hover right above the surface.
Damn.
And everybody's like, "What the fuck are these things?" And once every like 48 hours, they open up, and people start going inside of them, and there's like kind of like a wall, but it's like a clear wall, and then on the other side is kind of fog, but they can kind of start to see the aliens on the other side, and they like start to try and communicate with them, but the aliens are just so foreign that they have no common language or no common way to communicate. And so they only have like 10 minutes every day before they have to get back out before it closes up again. So everybody all around the world kind of stops all the wars, stops everything that's going on, and they're kind of like working together to figure out like what's going on, like who are these people, why are they here, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think is another theme. Like if there were aliens, I think the human species would come together more than they are now.
Well, I think because it's been kept under wraps is why we're not so unified as a species. I mean, dude, like if humanity were to like, stop all the wars, end, world hunger, fucking like help people out, and especially this planet that we live on, like to just reverse everything that we've done to it, dude, I'd be all for like humanity existing. But right now, dude, I just want it all to be wiped out, dude. I don't give a fuck.
I think we're on that verge where we're either going to wipe ourselves out or we're going to push through and make it to the next stage. We're going to become a type 1 civilization, or we're going to die trying.
Die trying, right? Shit. I don't know. I want us to do better as a species, as a human race, but, I don't know. The way things are going now, it just really bums me out. Shit.
Technology will always be weaponized. So there's not really a way, like, even if we had this amazing technology, there's not a way for us to pit it against each other. Oh, someone's always looking for the upper hand in order to control everything. It's, one person stepping on the other person's throat. That's always how it's going to be. There was a movie, what was that fucking movie with redheaded girl? Amy...
Oh, that one!
Amy Adams?
Arrival?
Yes. That was a fucking great movie.
Wow, Pierce, thanks for joining the show.
Did Nate say that?
Yeah, I was just talking about it.
Oh, I didn't know the name of it. David told me the name of it. That was a fucking good movie, though. And when you, like when you watch that movie, I think it actually is, you know how we were misinterpreting something for weapon?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's going to be. They're not going to give a shit because we're going to use it as a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to see that we're fucking people who destroy each other. Why would you fucking... It's like two fucking, little kids on the playground that fight with each other all the time, and you're like, hey, here's a couple knives.
Yeah.
See what you do with that. You know what I mean? It's just not going to fucking work. There's no point in giving it to us.
I mean, if that were the case, then wouldn't we have nuked ourselves to death already?
Yeah, we will. We will. There's a fucking time frame on that. It's going to happen. It's right now we're afraid of repercussions. That's really the reason why nobody's dropped a fucking nuke, because they know when they drop it, other people are going to send it. And it's because of there's allies. If we have one enemy, we're like, we could fucking destroy you. Well, they have a friend who's going to fucking shoot us. So the reason why is because it's just a standoff. It's a fucking old-fashioned Mexican standoff right now. And they're just waiting for the first person to fire. Everyone's just staring each other down. Somebody's going to fire, and then everybody's going to fire. It's just going to happen.
Well, isn't our program, sent to, once we're attacked, all of them go off at once kind of thing?
I don't even know,
like,
but I know that we have some fucking everywhere.
Everywhere.
They're
That's where
everywhere.
If you really want to go and check out aliens for yourself or whatever. There's always reports of they're usually hovering around military bases, especially ones with nuclear arsenal underneath the ground. They always just kind of hang around. They're like, "Are you guys not doing anything? All right, cool," and they just take off.
Yeah, checking in on their fucking ant farm, making sure they're not
Yeah.
killing each other yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that our time? That is
Yeah, that's an hour.
definitely our time.
All right.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining in. Again, this is just one of the topics that we're going to be touching on. We could always, touch back on it again if you guys have any stories that you would like to submit to us over Facebook or I think Instagram. We have that now?
We're on Instagram, yeah. Facebook,
Okay.
Instagram, or email, pajoshpodcast@gmail.com.
If you want to be a guest on this show or Speakeasy Gentlemen, just email us, hit us up, slide into our DMs. You guys got any stories, anything like weird conspiracy theories, strange, supernatural, paranormal shit? I'm all ears. Let's have it. But again, thank you, Josh, or Pierce, I should say, for tuning in late.
Hey, I like your house. Your house your house got updated.
You see the house?
Looks good.
I got the raven and everything.
Yeah, looks way better.
Hell yeah.
Looks way better than the last one.
Yeah, it actually looks a hell.
Yeah, so see you this Sunday, David. You're good. You're gonna make it on.
Yes, Nate. Thank you, dude. Way to switch up
Yeah.
the man. This is a really good one.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
thank
that.
you for having me on. Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed it.
He wanted and is it Klein?
Who?
What, my middle name?
No, somebody commented CLYNN. Same
That's
last-
my middle name. That's weird.
Okay. Well, anyway,
That's-
they
got
said they've been wanting you to talk about Bigfoot. So, if David, if you ever do if you ever do a Bigfoot episode, we will make sure we get to that too.
Of course. That's one of the cryptozoology things I'm into also. So
See you this Sunday. We have a special guest comedian on our show, Speakeasy Gentleman, Alex Elkin, stand-up comedian. He's a winner of a couple awards, so pretty cool.
So he's gonna be funnier than both of us?
Oh, funnier than us? Come on. No
It's
way.
not that hard to beat.
Us
No
together
way.
we're gonna wait, Josh.
Not
can you
that
do
hard
the-
to beat. You notice how you're the only one who laughed at that, Nathan? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because it wasn't that funny. I would have laughed if it was
All
funny.
Anyway.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys
All
for
right.
tuning in. You guys got your candles ready?
Oh shit!
Yep.
I forgot. We're gonna. All right.
Okay, ready? You think you could do this on time?
I got 3. 1. You
Wait.
you do the countdown.
Well,
I have
I'll do-
3
I'll-
fucking candles.
Hold on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in for another episode of the Nevermore Narrative. I was going to be like the Speakeasy Gentleman. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Good night.